Alright, what's up, goalie crowd? Thanks very much for chiming into tonight's video. Tonight we're going to take a look at the Optic glove, and as you can see I've got some of the older gloves I have laying around as well, so we'll do a comparison to those as we go through and also take a look at the scale lastly. So first things first, here's an overview of the whole glove, and as you can see, game ready break. Pretty phenomenal out of the box right there. I've done nothing. I haven't done the keeps breaking method, done nothing. I mean, this is straight out of the box. So you can see in terms of detail, again, the colorway on this as well with the whole matching set is a matte red with red weave accents just in the lower corner. Was kind of trying to emulate Eddie Lack's set from Carolina a couple of years ago. We just had like a little bit of accent in the lower half rolls. You can see no binding at all on the top roll there, and the only binding really on the glove there is on the tip, not on the bottom. True one-piece cuff, nice and stiff on the glove. Got that skate lace pocket. As you can see, that's red as well with some of the black fleck. Going on the side, we've got some air mesh there, and on the rest as well, it's going to improve breathability as well as reduce weight. Got some of the Defender material right here in the back. Stays pretty clean, reduces weight, which is a great touch. So a lot of the themes that you heard me mention on the blocker video last night are going to play through on the glove as well. Got the custom logo embroidered right there. Obviously got to love the small detail touches. Brian's logo right there, as well as some more of the graphic, and then the finger pad as well. It's a nice heavy finger pad right there. Made in Canada logo as well, and the Hexair logo there. So we're going to take a look now. I'm going to throw the camera back here inside the mount, and we'll take a look at some of the features breakdown by breakdown. Again, my number one message right now is that break out of the box is pretty ridiculous. Alright, so first things first, in terms of putting the glove on, we've got a few different Velcro attachment points here. So we have a Velcro here, we've got a Velcro there, and then a Velcro lastly on the pinky side of the wrist. So if we open those up with all three, you can see how completely and utterly wide open this glove opens up. So that's amazing in two different factors. One is just airing it out. If you skate a lot, you're really going to get a lot of air into these areas that don't dry out too much. And secondly, you get a full level of customization all the way up to the fingertips. One of the newest features for Optic is obviously the boa, so you can see right now I've got it loose. There's a good look at the wires that actually tighten the glove. There's the boa dial itself, and you can see there's two boas on the glove. The blocker only has one boa. Got traditional finger stall right there. It's a really nice touch. See, it's a soft material, so it feels, there you go, really plush on the back of your hands. It's really, really comfortable. And you've got the weave look there, mesh finger stalls, and then you've got an attachment up there with Velcro to adjust the finger stalls, really at your fingertips and dial that in. And lastly, see they've got the ecstatic material, which is pretty common in Lululemon gear, and that stripe right there is actually a silver fiber, which it absorbs odor and reduces stink, and I've got that on my current generation genetics and an older Brian CNA, and the stuff works very, very well. So I think the money shot everybody's here to see is the boa. We'll probably dive into that in a couple of minutes, maybe save the best for last and keep going through some of the features. The Hexair, as you can see there, the Hexair with the non-slip grip, the material here in the wrist, as well as in the finger areas there. So right here, that material is going to actually get tackier as it gets wet, so it's really going to stick to your hand. That's very, very useful stuff. You can also see kind of a floating cuff design where that wrist moves, so your wrist can move very independently of the glove. And you've got a true one-piece cuff. You can see how stiff that is, and I mean that in a positive way. nice and protective, and it's one piece all the way through the thumb into the wrist. No flexibility. So this glove is way different than the last couple Brian's offerings in a few different ways. So one, if you take a look at this glove, kind of notice the outer ridge of that is very squared and not rounded like some of the other gloves. And that's actually based off the Darling spec. That was a custom spec for Scott Darling where they basically almost made like a prototype where Brian's literally cut the fingers off a Sub-Zero glove and made a custom break for him. And they took that concept, which was really never meant to be mass produced, perfected it, and made it in a mass producible model, which became the Optic. The break on this, though, is different than what was the Darling break. The Darling break's more of a traditional baseball glove style, and this break is more in line with the Sub-Zero break. However, Scott Darling himself switched over from his own spec glove to the Optic, so it definitely gives some validity that if you do like that fingers to thumb style closure, you should definitely be comfortable in this glove, even though it's not a perfect baseball style closure glove by any means. It's a really nice closure, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Another change here, got this nice huge rigid finger pad. You can hear when my finger hits that, super dense, super heavy. Nice protection there. And then this piece here as well, also got some nice, probably high density foams in there. It's really stiff. And again, when I'm saying stiff in this regard, I mean good padding. So very good stuff right there. And again, the skate lace glove. So every single piece on this glove was re-engineered for the Optic, and that's why this line isn't called Sub-Zero 4 or Genetic 4. It's something completely different. And one of the biggest changes as well is Rio, if you've ever heard that name before, Brian's, was the guy who was designing the pads for the last at least probably 5 years. He's actually designing the gloves as well. Ben, who used to be their glove designer, left. So even though it is the same Sub-Zero 40-degree break, it's a little bit different just because it's got different components. All the tooling, all the foams, all the materials are entirely new on this glove. I can't stress that enough. It does feel different than a Sub-Zero, but not crazy different. If you like a Sub, you'd probably be happy, but it does have a little bit of a different feel to it, as well as it has more of a genetic style thumb where it's thinned out and designed so that as pucks hit there, they'll naturally carry them into the pocket itself. So let's dive into the BOA and the strapping system a little bit. So on the tip here, you've got some Velcro. Not every glove in the market has this, and this is designed to kind of tighten the glove out at your fingertips so you can really dial in your closure. So I actually like that pretty snug. So when the glove delivered to me, it was set about there, and I'm probably going to wear that somewhere like here. And then in the middle, probably what a lot of people are tuning in to see are the two BOA dials. So some of this might be repeats for anybody that watched the video last night, but that's because the tech is similar across the line between the gloves. But BOA isn't exclusive to Brian's in the sense that it's used in other sports. So it's very popular on things like FootJoy golf shoes, hiking boots, cycling boots as well, where they're getting rid of the laces and replacing with the BOA system. So this is proven technology from other sports, just ported over to hockey. So the most obvious one is the wrist strap here, but if you talk to the guys at Brian's, this is actually the BOA that they're most excited about, because when you tighten this dial, it actually compresses the palm of your glove, so this break right here, into your fingers, which is going to bring your glove closer in and make it a snugger fit, more tighter fit, more control. So BOA is super easy. So that's down, that's up, down, up. So to tighten it, you click it down. That's it. That was probably a little bit too tight, just kind of doing it up. I will probably wear it like there, and the same with the wrist there. That's it. And BOA is dialed in, and you can see it's super snug on your wrist. You can see this floating cuff moves really nicely with the wrist. So these straps you're probably not going to really undo unless you're airing the glove out, but just so the BOA, and there's the tag as well. I'm just noting that a BOA is an independent third-party system that's designed for strapping in the sporting good world. So as you can see, nearly a perfect close out of the box and super snug in a positive way with the BOA. I mean, it's really, really snug, and you can dial it in very, very easily. And it's such a clean look too, because you're not going to have the straps hanging out of the glove. We can take a look at maybe the 1S or the Genetic down there, just to take a look at some of the older models, but it's a super clean look. One of the things that I like about a Brian's glove, which is a little bit unique, I'd say, and I don't know if everybody notices this, but in my opinion, Brian's a little bit of a shorter wrist right here and a little bit more glove up there. And it's really, really nice. It doesn't interfere with your chest protector, and you get the most kind of coverage out in the fingertips where you want it to catch the pucks. There's not a huge bulky wrist pad that's going to come high up the wrist to there by any means. So again, I mean, this is out of the box closure. One of the things I learned recently too, believe it or not, is that most pros actually use a game ready glove for their game break. And it's the same thing you'd buy at retail. It's not like a pro stock game ready. It's the same game ready you get at retail. And then guys that are taking 100-mile-an-hour slap shots day in and day out in practice might get a practice palm. But unless you're playing that level of hockey, strongly recommend going with the game ready break as well. You're going to be much happy with it, much less fuss getting with it. Some of their tweaks Brian's made to the glove as well, is they want that seal to be perfect. But they also tweak the glove a little bit in regards for puck handling, trying to make it as easy as possible to puck handle with this glove. It's not something I can really show in this video, but stay tuned to any of the reviews that we'll do on the goalnet.com, and we'll definitely get that info for everybody. So we're going to take it off now, so just click that up. That's it, gloves off my hand. So it's a great look at it again. So before we dive into any of the comparisons, anybody have any questions compared to the anything I've said, anything they want to know about before we dive in? Just type it on the screen and I'll address it. All right, didn't look like we have any questions so far, so let's move in and maybe comparing it to the other models right now. So I guess we'll start with the Genetic, maybe just because that's kind of the closest in the same family. Is the T different from the Genetic? Yeah, so Genetic has a stock, it's actually a great question. Genetic has a stock split T, double T, depending on what you want to call it, and the Genetic, or the Optic's going to come stock with the single T there. And one of the reasons Brian's was comfortable doing that, even though the double T is a little bit more common right now, was they felt that it gave the glove that open pocket, which is the point of the double T, and they got that accomplished with a single T, which generally is a little bit nicer feel when the puck's hitting directly into the spine of the glove. So that's why they went with the single T. And if we look here, this glove is modified by Factory Mat, but you can see we got the thief eyes. This is the Genetic, and it's got the double T inside there. How is the break compared to the Sub-Zero 3? Pretty similar to Sub-Zero 3. Again, a lot of the materials, and when I say a lot, all of them were changed, as well as Rio's designing the gloves instead of Ben's, so it's going to be a little bit different, but it is in the same family of the Sub-Zero. It's not based off the Genetic by any means. All right, so let's take a look at the Genetic glove first. This is a first-gen Genetic as well, so there's some differences. But as I mentioned before, Brian's gloves kind of have the short wrist, big fingers, which I love. Gives the gloves like a super open, super squared off look. But you can see just even looking at them side by side, the break angles are different. And this being the older Genetic, we've got the binding and the threading there. So we go in and tighten this. So I'm tightening the strap. And then during the game, we're saying it's such a clean look with the Optic. You've got all this strap that kind of hangs out. I mean, Brian's was pretty cutting edge adding this at the time because it made it really, really easy to adjust it in the game. But at the same point, it looks kind of unclean. And then secondly, you've got the open wrist design. Brian's went away from this just because I think you can kind of get, I've never taken a puck back there, but it is just a little bit open. Got a lot of pieces, a lot of segments. Versus you can see you're still getting that great wide open design on the Optic, but it's a nice one clean piece back there. So here's for reference my Genetic glove. Closes pretty well, pretty clean. Genetic had a pretty unique option at the time, which was an external pro palm, so most of the padding is actually inside the glove. I've never felt a stinger with this thing, so it's amazing in the sense of that, but the kind of the downside is sometimes when you go to close it, you can see those two huge pads right there in the wrist can kind of intersect. So the glove closes great, but not quite, maybe not quite perfect. So Manny was just asking why Brian's discontinued the anchor tee. So discontinued is probably the wrong word. With Brian's, it's just an issue of what's stock on the retail offering. If you want an anchor tee, you want the genetic style double tee. If you notice, Craig Anderson's got a double tee. They'll build you that. You just got to order it. I can't speak to if there's an upcharge or not because mine's stock, but should be a pretty easy go around. And the reasons Brian's went away from that, like I mentioned a couple moments ago, is they've designed this tee so that it gives the glove a super wide open design, and it's just a little bit more clean, classic design where you're going to get hit the puck hitting the spine and kind of get that snap feeling with it. You're going to get a nice closure with this glove, a nice snap closure, and it's just very, very secure. You can just tell by strapping it on, it just closes really well. Obviously, I got to catch some pucks to kind of confirm all that stuff, but very, very exciting. You can also see just a very clean, square design, looks very, very big. So this is where the boa kind of comes in handy too. I actually think it's a little bit easier than sliding the glove out. But again, there's kind of compared to my genetic, which is about 5 years old. And next we'll move on to the 1S. So this is my 1S glove, and the break, in my opinion, between the Optic and the genetic will be between, the 1S, the 600, the T5500 style break, and the genetic, but it's going to be a little bit more on the side of the 1S, but not all the way there by any means. You can see, so this glove has a pro palm in it. It's actually made in Canada Bauer, which is kind of a white elephant, but this glove still doesn't quite close perfectly, and I will definitely admit this glove, it's pro practice palm and it's way too stiff for my current needs. I definitely have some pop outs. It's not the fault of the glove necessarily, just the specs. You can see how that closes. So some of the differences you're going to see here are in the cuff design. So the Bauer's going to have about 6-7 different pieces back there to do the segmentation to get the wrist flex, versus the Brian's has the one wide open clean one. Are Brian's harder to close from 31 Dylan? No. This Optic, of any of the three gloves, four total I have here, the Optic is going to be the easiest closing, and this is brand new. All right. You can also see the pocket depth, the Bauer versus the Optic. The Optic's got a lot deeper pocket right there. And other than that, backside's kind of the backside. You'll notice though the Bauer does not have kind of the plush extra lining, so you can see this is a thin one piece for the finger stalls, and when we look at the Brian's, actually two piece. You've got the carbon weave on the back, and you've got that really supple, soft kind of Nash-like cream material on the inside. That's actually like a 2-ply material. Really, really feels nice in a couple areas. You've got the classic leather inside the finger stalls. Take a look at strapping on the Bauer. So my Bauer does have a custom wrist option from Factory Mad, so a little bit not fair to go apples to apples, but at the same point you can see, got the long straps. The Optic's definitely going to have the cleaner look. And there's the closer once I'm in all the way. So we just got a question from the Tendy33. Would you recommend it coming from Premier? You got to try it on the store. I mean, again, you can see I've used all sorts of different brakes. I've also used a Bond 9500 recently, which isn't pictured. And each glove kind of has their nuances. I find some are more comfortable in my hand. Some I, naturally just get the puck a little bit better in the tee. That's one thing I will give this glove credit for. Just a nice angle for my hand. Puck always hit the pocket, but given how stiff it is, had a lot of pop out. So you definitely want to go to the store and try the glove on. But Optic just seems like a really good kind of neutral brake, and I mean that in a positive way. And also has the ability to flex. It's got an extra hinge inside of it, so you can close it a little bit more, so you might be able to tune the brake a little bit more. Now we're going to go really old school. This is a Koho 580 that I used to use that's just so old. Just never really made much sense to sell it, but just to kind of take a look at what this brake looks like and how it closes. I mean, this closes phenomenal, but this is a 10-year-old glove and does not have nearly kind of the technology in terms of the padding and the build of any of the other gloves. But you know, super simple. You know, just kind of the mesh inside there. Very, very basic glove. It just doesn't feel as plush, as supple on your hand as any of these other three models I've got. But again, that's not to knock it. I mean, this glove has got to be 10 plus years old, older than that. So just thought it'd be fun to pull it out for there. So next thing we're going to do is weigh it. You know, the first thing I noticed when I picked up the Optic blocker is that it felt lighter than everything else. Most of these kind of feel about the same weight, so I'm not really anticipating a lot of difference. But let's just kind of have some fun and weigh them and see where everything hashes out at. Alright, so let's just zero out the scale and get started here. Alright, so Koho coming in at 2.4 pounds. I guess we'll go in order of oldest to newest. Next up on the scale will be the Genetic, and this is again modified by Factory Mad. It's got the skate lace floating tee in it. That is coming in at 2.1, so saving a few ounces. 2.2 for the Bowers, so the Genetic is actually just a little bit lighter, but again, we're not seeing a huge difference. The Koho was 2.4, the Genetic was 2.1, this one's about 2.2, so it's only plus or minus an ounce really, so it seems like gloves have stayed kind of in a very similar range. And again, I don't expect the Optic to necessarily be lighter, and you can see it's coming in at about 2.3, so it's plus or minus an ounce really between all four of these gloves, which is kind of pretty remarkable. The big thing with the Optic is the balance as well. It really just feels comfortable on your hand. As you can see, I've worn 3 different brakes, make this 4, and this one just naturally closes, you know, perfectly basically on day 1. And just some of the materials inside, the hex air, the non-slip grip inside, I mean, it just feels very, very plush. And again, that nice double ply material that they're using here for the finger stalls feels just phenomenal on your fingers. And you got the ecstatic in there. We have any other questions from the crowd right now? All right, cool. Anything else anybody wants to see right now? I mean, I think we've dialed into the gloves. So again, the changes versus some of the other Brian's models. Let me put this back in my hand. We'll go through those one more time, and if anybody has any questions, please type them in. If not, we'll be on the closing stretch of this one. So again, this glove is based off the profile of the Darling. You can see the very square tip right there, which is based off the Darling spec, where he literally kind of had a Sub-Zero glove chopped up and had the glove broke. Do you recommend the Factory Mad glove? Yeah, I mean, I absolutely like it. You know, it just depends on how soft you like your pocket. The glove, it's very difficult to get a pop out with the Factory Mad. I mean, there's some times you could take a shot at the right speed, not close your glove, and it's literally not going to pop out. But if you like a stiffer feeling tee, you really want to feel that snap, it's going to be different, you know, it's just a softer feel, but there's definitely a chance, you know, depending on how I like this tee, I could definitely look at doing that again. I don't really have anything bad to say about it, but it's just a very, very different feel if you're not used to it. Yeah, Scott was just asking about the weight, and yeah, I mean, I can't really show pictures of this, but if you just feel the palm of the Optic, the Genetic, or even the 1S compared to the Koho, like you can feel these gloves are way more padded. They have way nicer materials, and yet they're the same weight as the Koho. And as they put nicer materials in the palm to prevent stingers and things like that, it is going to kind of combat light weighting it. So the nice thing is gloves aren't getting heavier. and 2 pounds isn't terrible. It's not like they're crazy. I mean, at some point, maybe somebody will do it. The impressive thing with the brines, if you think about it though, is they've got a much beefier palm than the Coho. They've got all the dials and they're still in the ballpark on the same weights. They've added a lot of features and balance. Those old Cohos can feel a little bit fingertip heavy. I mean, it's a nice glove. I mean, I had that, and then I had a P1 after that that had the same 580 brake, but they're a little bit fingertip heavy. This is super balanced. It just feels light and comfortable in your hand, even though it may not weigh less in terms of the scale. The mod, you got to talk to Dennis on that. Unfortunately, I don't do sales for any of these companies. I buy the gear. So you'd have to talk to Dennis if you want to know about prices on that. Just DM at Factory Mad. Super responsive, nice guy. That's not exactly something I can help you out with, though. I apologize. But again, getting back to Optic, nice squared up design, hard one-piece cuff, no seam, no stitches on the top there. It's going to have single T. Skate lace is an option. The glove will come standard with like the lacing, the traditional webbing like we've got on the 580 over there. Super open design, a couple Velcro strips. You can get the glove all the way up there. We've got the fingertip Velcro, which is really nice to dial it in. We've got our 2 BOA dials. And that's pretty much it. And again, snap closure, and I look forward to testing it, but from what Brian's tells me, they put a big emphasis as well on increasing how effective this glove is going to be with playing the puck. So just one last round. Does anybody have questions? I don't have a G3 glove, so unfortunately I can't answer any questions pertaining to that. All right, cool. Thanks again, everybody dialing in. If you want to watch this, you didn't see anything, check out thegoalnet.com tomorrow. I should have the video uploaded by then, as well as tons of other great stuff. If you haven't checked out the website, strongly recommend it. It's growing tremendously fast. There's a lot of great information on there as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow at the same time, 9 Eastern, we will dive in and take a look at the Optic pads. Have a good one. Thanks again for tuning in, Goalie Crowd. Appreciate all you guys.